Na, 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 na.
Hanging out down the street, the same old thing that we did last week, not a thing to do but talk to you. We're all right. We're all right. Hello, Wisconsin.
That never gets fucking old.
It never gets old.
Slippers, man. Slippers, can you hear me?
Faja.
Pasha, Pasha, Pasha,
Faja.
Pasha, Pasha.
All right. So I don't know if you've been on social media in the last week or so.
Not really.
Ric Flair and lightly Brock Lesnar have been under fire.
Wait, time out. You said Ric Flair and Brock Lesnar have been under fire?
That is correct.
I am so intrigued as to find out the reason why the two of them particularly are. And it's really how both of. Please do explain.
Let me explain. So, are you aware of the documentary show Dark Side of the Ring?
I'm very well aware.
Well, Dark Side of the Ring opened up the second half of their first season with the plane ride from hell. Now, Slivers, you've heard in reference of the plane ride from hell.
Oh, of course, yeah. I've heard in reference. I've never actually heard what the details are, but I'm pretty sure you're about to explain them to me.
Oh, I am. This was just a lore thing, but Dark Side of the Ring bust this shit open like a pinata. Now, to set things up, the people interviewed were Tommy Dreamer, Rob Van Dam, Mike Chioda, one of the referees, and the flight attendant that was there.
Oh, so drugs were definitely involved in the taping of this. Got it.
And Jim Ross. Jim Ross was also interviewed.
No. Oh, and good old JR. How could I?
Oh, of course. Okay, drugs are definitely involved. All right, got you.
Oh, dang it. This was 2002. Drugs were most certainly involved. So the Insurrection pay-per-view. This was literally the night, of or that night after the pay-per-view. All right. Which also explains why the Insurrection pay-per-view was a bit of a one-off pay-per-view. I think this did it. Now, they're getting ready to board a flight back to the States, Connecticut, I believe they were headed back to. And they hired a private airline for the most part, right? So a private plane company. Keep that in mind. Now,
no good things happen fly private in these situations. This is setting it up beautifully.
No. Now, they were getting ready to take off, but they had to be stopped because of a weather delay. So they taken, it was only going to take all of 30 minutes to an hour. They were stuck there for 7 hours. Roughly an entire work shift. All right.
Wow.
So there's a car, there's a cart of booze on every plane.
Of course.
They run through the cart of booze. and they order another cart of booze. They get another cart of booze and run through that cart of booze. They order a third cart of booze. They get that cart of booze and they run through that cart of booze. All before taking off.
Sensational.
Oh, absolutely. Tremendous. So when they take off, oh, I got to give you a predecessor. There it is. During the pay-per-view, Terry Reynolds, who might I add, is also interviewed in this episode.
Drugs are definitely involved. Okay.
Terry Reynolds tells about how she, walks into the locker room and Brock Lesnar like has his dick out, shaking it, in front of her, pretty much. So she no-sells it and just walks directly to the bathroom. So Goldust comes in and he's like, yo, just no-sell it. Like, she's like, already no-sold it. No, of course I'm not selling it. Like, what the fuck's wrong with y'all? Pretty much, right?
Sorry.
Put a pin on that. Now, flight takes off, and while they're in the air, Mr. Perfect, he decides now's the time to be a hell of a prankster. Oh, and a hell of a prankster that Mr. Perfect is, that scoundrel. Well, he put something in Michael P.S. Hayes' drink. And it causes P.S. Hayes to act different. Just completely different. All right? This motherfucker just up and randomly steals the shit out of Bradshaw. Who was open during his mad insurrection, so he was like stuck and the shit out of Hayes. Knocking. Who also was briefly interviewed for this episode. Yeah, it's all coming back to me as it goes along. So he comes in with a pair of scissors and they cut off P.S. Hayes' ponytail.
Dog.
That's just the beginning of it all.
I'm just waiting for you to get to the part where I can read somebody's statement verbatim.
Ooh, you might gotta take over for that. So, well, when we get there, we'll cross that bridge when we get there. So, then next, Mr. Perfect, ever this fucking scoundrel, he takes some shaving cream and all over Brock Lesnar's head and smacks it across his fucking head. Immediately, 20 what? 4-year-old Brock Lesnar wants that fade.
Expeditiously.
Exactly. So he's about to start, going at it and wrestling about breaking shit and aisles of the seating until eventually they rumble into the motherfucking fuselage. They hit the motherfucking emergency exit door, and the joke, they hear a loud boom. Now, the shit was all fun and games until everyone heard that loud boom. Now, everybody all right, chill, try to back them off each other and shit, right? That motherfucker blows open, it's over for everyone. So they call in JR. JR come in, and he see them play fighting. He, corrals them and settles them down. Eventually, everybody chills the fuck out, right? Well, everybody's starting to wind down. This motherfucker Goldust, he fucked up. he started singing George Coe in regards to Terry because they are recently divorced.
Mm-hmm.
So he got a karate grip on this airplane microphone singing this shit. So eventually JR had to come back there and tell him,
get off the microphone.
get off the microphone, sit your ass down, and go to sleep. Like, you've had enough, all right? Eventually, he passes out, and the flight attendant, grabs the microphone. She says that, she wasn't 100% bothered by him having the microphone. She just needed to get it back. Keep that in mind, all right? So then we get to a point where Ric Flair, he wants to be a prankster of his own and shit, right? So he puts on one of his robes, butt ass naked, steps out in the middle of the aisle, opens up the robe, and pops the boys. I don't know how or why it pops the boys, but it pops the boys, right? So then he goes to the flight attendant being interviewed for this episode, and tries to get her to touch his right? So she like adamantly like, no, I don't want to, and allegedly he gets her to, essentially by force, right? So it gets to a point where Goldust, he comes back there, he like, Rick, you gotta chill. You know what I'm saying? And he gets Rick to chill. And that's why the flight attendant wasn't so bothered when Dustin had the motherfucking microphone singing George Coe. All right. Now, finally, everybody knocks out. The plane touches down. It's time to get off the plane. Oh, they also interviewed Just Incredible for this.
Yeah.
So
before you get there, before you go to the end,
yes,
we have to read where one wrestler in particular, Tommy Dreamer, what he said about Ric Flair's meat. And this is verbatim. This is what he said. I'm not exaggerating on any level. This is really what he said. He said, and I quote, he could move his hips, twirl it, and so his well-endowed penis spins around like a helicopter. So, hey, he's the nature boy for a reason. He's got a hammer on him. Like, boy, what? What is wrong with me?
This story just keeps taking terrible turns after terrible turns.
He sold the mess out of Flair's meat.
Boy. Oh, we're reaching in. I and they're not. At any rate, plans. Everybody knows get on the plane. Somebody has to wake Scott Hall a drinking problem and drug addiction at the time, and they just let him loose. So, the flight attendant goes to wake Scott Hall up to let him know they landed. He like in like a blackout drunkenness, like immediately grabs her, starts groping her, and like just telling her nasty things that she dared not repeat in the interview, and licked her neck, shit like that, and passed the fuck back out. All right. So this flight attendant is traumatized as fuck from all this. She's just doing her goddamn job. Meanwhile, motherfuckers at this point think Scott Hall's dead. Because they try to wake this motherfucker back up, and he won't wake back up. He's barely even breathing. So they're like, he might die. So these motherfuckers had the weekend at Bernie's his ass past customs in order to get this motherfucker home. So at the end of it all, the aftermath of it, number one, JR caught every bit of hell from Vince McMahon. Why? Because JR is the goddamn chaperone of the kids.
Yeah, he's over talent relations.
Yeah, the chaperone of the kids.
The CEO of the inmates, if you will.
Exactly. You know what I'm saying? JR the CEO, right? And the inmates ran loose on his watch. You know what I'm saying? So JR was like, all right, fine. I'll deal with that shit. But, you know, heads also got to roll under me as well. And I understand that in order to, you know, get back on Vince's good side. So the moment they got back home, Scott, you're fired. They gave Mr. Perfect a call, said, Mr. Perfect, you're fired. Goldust, who was spitting tobacco in the little, like, you know how the fucking
where they had to like
pull out compartment, little like yank out compartment. This motherfucker spitting his tobacco into that shit. So they find the shit out of Dustin. And so they asked JR, well, everybody got fined or fired. What happened to Ric Flair? So JR just like, all right, man, I'll be the first to tell you, yo, Rick has the juice. He's Teflon.
He's a made man.
He's a made man. So he got away with it. So meanwhile, the flight attendant, she get home and she got pretty much, you know, sell a short story to her husband how the trip was. And she just went upstairs, took a shower, and cried. She told, you know, her job about it or whatever. And her job was pretty much like, yeah, I mean, this was a private flight. So
what he did?
Exactly, pretty much. So when they sell the shit out of the court, yeah, she gonna take the money because, like, what else? Like, you know, what else can you get out of that at that point? You need some type of justice, right? So, but yeah, it was all around an absolute shit show, and yeah, so like, all in all, eventually Scott Hall like came back, as you saw. Mr. Perfect never got a chance to. He bit the big one, if not months, a year or so after. Brock Lesnar, also Teflon, because Brock Lesnar, if I'm not mistaken, was, if not champion at the time, being pushed to the fucking moon.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then like, you know, that was that. Now, the, you know, aftermath of the documentary, Twitter was set fucking ablaze. I watched that episode, and the moment I got off and watched that episode, I saw that, like, you know, Ric Flair was trending. I was like, yeah, this is going to be a mess. I got up the next morning, Ric Flair, Brock Lesnar, and Dark Side of the Ring was trending. Boy, oh boy, was it a mess. My personal, you know, following timeline, that shit was a mess. Like, it that's, you know what I'm saying? That, so, you know, that's why I was gonna look at that pay-per-view out and Saudi Arabia, and they really gonna hate that shit because not only is that shit in Saudi Arabia and that's blood money, that's what pisses a lot of people off. And Ric Flair, for obvious reasons, have exposed himself to people. Tommy Dreamer, RVD, with the flight, it's like, yeah, man, like it's crazy. Like now, looking back at it, it's crazy that it happened. And you know, even back then, you knew better. Like if you knew better, you knew that it was crazy back then. But that's what was going. That was like the norm of sorts. And it sucks to hear that your favorite wrestler is out, you know, exposing themselves to flight attendants and people at bars and shit. But it happened. So it's like you got, you know, judge that on your own, pretty much.
Also, this isn't the first time that this kind of story has been told about Ric Flair. Ric Flair told a story about him, about himself one time.
On 30 for 30. The story was even told on Story Time on
yeah.
WWE. This story was told multiple times, but it's just clicking. That's the thing. It's just fucking clicking. Like, even watching that 30 for 30, I was like, isn't that a decent exposure? I guess it can because it's Ric Flair, right? Whatever. You know what I'm saying? But now that motherfuckers actually realize, hey, that this is dark. What's going on? This isn't whimsical. This isn't funny, like how 30 for 30 and Storytime painted it. And then, you know, WWE is essentially under fire because the industry let Terry Reynolds down. You know what I'm saying? So it was just a mishandling of talent in general. And that's why, you know, over the years, they just cracked the fuck down. But it pretty much killed the fun. And instead of, you know, just teaching the young talent to do better, you pretty much give them strict guidelines and have them getting suspended for the dumbest of reasons and shit sometimes. Other times for good fucking reason because they didn't learn the fucking lesson. So it's like, it's a double-edged sword that's stabbing the fuck out of WWE.
Well, I mean, it's basically, this is what they created, so now they got to deal with it. Basically.
Bingo.
So, I mean, that's just life in general. Like, you make your bed, and you got to lie in it. That goes with everybody. Nobody is above that. So, yeah. I mean, we all, bruh, like, if there's one thing I know in our conversations and with other conversations that I've had with other people who watched the WWE back then / WWF, we all knew foolishness was going on. Like, you just couldn't tell me like these Bama's wasn't back there wilding like they were 13 years old. You could you could see it on the actual product that you on coke, you on some, I don't even know the drug that you are on. I just know You're is a drug.
This is a normal demeanor.
Right, like every Ric Flair promo, like after the third joint, like that I went and was able to see like the archive joints. Because of course we weren't born during his heyday, but when you saw like the one that the Colts used, the limousine flying, jet limousine riding, jet flying son of a gun, that whole promo was brought to you by cocaine. Like it was sponsored by Coke.
The woos and oh yes, baby.
Oh, that is an episode. We did do that.
The woos and oh yeah.
Search the product for woos and oh yeah. You'll get a kick out of that episode. But yeah, it's bruh. Bama's has been out here wilding their whole life and didn't have no repercussions. So all of these stories that's coming out, it's about to be a mess for WWE.
Exactly. So like people are going to see, like people are going to watch that episode and it's going to make them wonder what the fuck else have they been into? And woo boy, if you think that is awful, ask me how they're ending this season.
Oh, they have to end it with China.
No,
Worse.
that would have been good. Yeah, much worse. Much worse.
Oh,
Mae Young in the Fabulous movie.
That was season 1. If you
Oh,
haven't
that was
seen it.
season 1.
Oh,
I ain't
God,
seen that one. I haven't seen all of them yet.
that was good, bro.
they did Owen already.
Do yourself a favor and get hip to that show, because god damn, it is excellent. Like how they set everything out and all that, like the setup for the episodes, all that. It's compelling, it's well thought out, it's well laid out, all that. It's real good. It gets to a point where you see motherfuckers you never even heard of, and you like, well, what happened with them? You get curious, you know what I'm saying? And then you watch that shit, you just sit there like, god damn. I didn't know who Gino Hernandez was until I watched that episode. I was like, yo, he was wilding.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, what they ending the season? What they ending it with?
But no, not the Fabulous Moolah. But the Fabulous Moolah episode in particular, excellent, because they also talk about the first black female wrestler as well, and how Fabulous Moolah fucked her over as well.
I see. But what are they ending it with?
The State versus Vince McMahon. The steroid.
Oh boy.
Oh boy, indeed.
Oh boy.
Now this is some shit that everybody know about, of course, because it was a highly publicized case, and if you were alive at the time, you knew about it. You know what I'm saying? Like, even if you were a kid at the time, you knew about it. You know what I'm saying? However, this generation, I don't think they necessarily know about it.
I'm sure they don't. I'm almost certain that they don't.
And this is the generation that WWE, caters to these days.
Mm-hmm.
It might be a wrap for these motherfuckers. It just might.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if not a wrap, it's going to be a slow death. And we'll know that death is going to be imminent when their biggest hitters start leaving. Motherfucker, if goddamn Roman Reigns leaves, oh, it's over for WWE.
Bro.
Hey, what if Roman Reigns goes to AEW and starts putting on like amazing matches? It's like, I would have never thought. Who would have ever known? This is amazing.
Yeah.
Roman Reigns hitting 450 splashes. This is incredible.
450 splashes. That would be a sight to behold.
Man. Well, look up that Jones. You're going to see. I hear voices. What is he doing here?
Oh, God. Randy Orton is all elite. No.
That's hilarious.
It is
Slim.
over.
If that happened, y'all already know it's a wrap for me. Los literally would tweet me RKO watch for like 3 years because that is the only time I wanted to see WWE.
You and Caleb.
I was like, oh, Randall on? Oh, all right. I'll be there.
You know what I'm saying? And
Randall,
you know that RKO would be splendid. That motherfucker be hitting that motherfucker out of nowhere. Poison. I'd like to see the RKO versus the QT Cutter. See, we doing the most doing all this dream match and shit. We gotta wait for WWE to actually slowly die.
Right.
Oh, it's about to happen. They all these stories and stuff that's coming out, like they about to be they about to be in trouble, bro.
And looking back at it, like even up to from our births on up to this point, you have the steroid trial, you have the plane ride from hell, you have Chris Benoit, you have Eddie dying before that, you have goddamn, what happened? Shit. Randy Orton okay, was a menace when he was younger. The Dark Side of the Ring can focus on the WWE themselves. They've already unleashed how basically, and it was low key implied, but it was like a giveaway implication. Vince McMahon covered up Jimmy Snuka's murder.
I mean, I'm not surprised about that.
That's a Dark Side of the Ring episode. You know what I'm saying? Like there was quite a bit.
The wild thing is that's not even the stuff that's going to do them in. What's going to do them in is when, like, they're going to use all those types of stories to build traction to be able to deliver the final nail of the coffin, which will probably be how they treated the women, like in depth. Because if you think about it,
that's where Randy Orton comes in.
I know that's what I'm saying. Like that's what it looked like it's going to, because they, bruh, again, I say it with some semblance of humor to try to not make it so dark, but
Yeah.
the whole, like, that pay-per-view that we all watched together, the Royal Rumble. What was that? The 2000 Royal Rumble?
Yeah.
Bruh, they had a old woman reveal herself.
Man.
That is what they did for television back then, yeah. Like, there's no way heads aren't going to roll just off of that one particular pay-per-view. Like, heads are going to roll. She was somebody Mima at that time, bro. Like, let that sink in for a second. She was Mima age.
Mae Young?
Yes, she was She was somebody's grandmother, probably somebody's great grandmother.
To a motherfucking stage? Yeah, fair point.
Like, bro, the stuff that they did, terrible. The one pay-per-view I got to watch as a child is that one, and I'd never seen another one until I became an adult because they was out here wilding.
In fairness, all right, and this isn't to defend WWE, but two things. Mae Young was that bitch.
Oh my goodness.
And she was up for any fucking thing.
Hey, I'm not saying that's not the case.
That's what I loved about Mae Young. Mae Young trained Fabulous Moolah. I'll let you know how, like, dope Mae Young is. Well, she kind of created a monster, but you get the point. Like, she's Mae Young, low key the Bill Russell of wrestling, but she never won anything per se. She was just a figure, I guess you could say. I don't know, but she was up for anything. She was ready to take big boy bumps and shit like that. Even at 90-some years old, it was amazing. She motherfucking push out hand.
How about the tables and whatnot? You know what? Cut it off now.
Oh, yeah, I catch that. All right, cool.
We
I
heard
want to know. Did you catch that? Oh,
we caught it.
We'll stop there.